Alright, I just want to say real quick before this video starts, I totally forgot I had this footage. This footage is probably about like, I don't know, 8 months old or so. It's one of the first mods I did to the car, and watching it and editing it, it's kinda cringy, so I'm sorry in advance.
Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how to install and even a review of these Blazer Baja Touch lights that I got from AutoZone. I got these for 20 bucks. They're 55 watts and they can be as fog lights or driving lights. So they should be pretty good. Everything that's included in the box is right here. You have 2 sets of instructions in 4 different languages. These are the lights. They have glass housings. The wiring comes with all the wiring you need, and there's even an inline fuse so you're safe. Comes with a switch that will also be illuminated in the dash, and you have a couple of screws to mount the switch. I'm going to mount mine down here on this bracket that I was able to steal from behind the bumper on the 2000 Toyota 4Runner here. It's going to be mounted more straight out like that, but so this bar has 3 holes in it, and so I figured it'd be a perfect spot to mount the lights. Alright guys, so the first step on the instructions over here is it says to take the lens off of the lights. So and this is a glass lens, and so it's just two Phillips screws here, and it says to take the lens off and the reflector. And it says to put them back in upside down. I don't know why it says this, but it just says to do it, so I'll just do it. Okay, so I'm not gonna do that because I took it apart, and the way the wires are back there, where they go through this little boot here, they're bent in a certain way, and if you put the lens upside down, it just doesn't make any sense. So I just put it back in the way it is, and honestly, it looks exactly the same on both sides anyways, so just don't even bother with it. Alright, so I took the plastic bumper bar off. I have it in here with just some self-tapping screws here. And I did it because this bolt that stays in here is really weird, and when you're pushing on it, it just goes in. It's hard to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it in here like that, and it's going to go in, and then it'll be a lot easier to just go behind here and screw it in without it mounted to the car. Alright, so when you're mounting this, make sure you have the plastic adjuster tab in the middle of it, so it goes the bolt inside and then the plastic adjuster tab, what you're bolting it to, and then the washer that you, or like the nut you put on the back of it. Alright guys, so I got the lights mounted. They're not wired yet, but I got them mounted, but they look pretty good on there. They protrude quite a bit. Once I get a drill bit, I'll definitely try and put them back in there in the bumper, because it does look a little bit better back there in the bumper, but because they stick out quite a bit, but that's no big deal for now. Alright, so I was kind of confused at first, but this blue wire is actually an extension, if it'll focus. This blue wire is an extension because I was wondering, because this wire and this wire is not long enough to meet up into the white T that goes up through the car into the battery. But this blue wire it's like 4 feet long, and so it'll connect from if you have a big truck, it'll connect from one corner to the other corner. And so this is how you would connect them together. Now you have to take the black wire on here and ground it to something, and that'll be a bit tricky for me because all of this is plastic around here, so I'll have to figure out how to do that. But you might not have to do that for your installation. That's because they assume you're drilling it into metal, and so when you would drill your hole, you would just put this right in the hole here for where you would be mounting the light itself. So now we have the fun part of trying to run this wire into the cab, and so if you look down in here, there's this grommet right here, and so if you come along inside the car, under the dash, you can see up in there that is where that bit comes back in. It comes right in through there. So what you have to do is you have to try and feed it in through that. Alright, so what I did was I pulled this little boot back in here, and that allowed me access to the inside. So now inside, I just have the wire hanging right now, and now we're gonna look at what's next. Next thing that we did was run the black power wire with the inline fuse in it through the same hole in the firewall, and then that brought us back out the same end on the other side. And next thing we have to do is take this panel off, because I want to mount it in one of these switches here, and these are it's just 4 14mm bolts that get that out. Alright, so now that we have the panel off, we have to pop off one of our upper switches here, so it just pushes right out just like that. And then how you're gonna mount this thing is you're gonna run it through here. It's gonna go up like that, and then there's 4 screw holes back here, but they only gave you 3 screws, so just use all 3 of them and that'll be good enough. Alright, so first thing you want to do is disconnect your battery. That way you don't shock yourself or short circuit anything. But that does mean that you will be working in the dark, because as you can see, none of the lights on the inside turn on or work, so you'll have to have some other lighting. Alright, so what I did to ground this thing, since I couldn't find any screw holes that were small enough to fit it, I literally just shoved it in between these two pieces of metal here, and this bolts right up to the frame, and so this is where I would have grounded it anyways. And since it's all connected and stuff, so this piece of metal right here is good enough. It's wedged in, it won't go anywhere. Okay, so as of right now, we have the wires run through to the cab. We have the switch mounted. I know it's kind of poorly mounted, but whatever, it was hard. It took like 25 minutes to try and mount this, because there's no holes and you have to screw it in. So it took some trial and error to try and get those screws screwed in. We have the grounded through here. The wires are run through. So the next thing we have to do is we have to try and get it grounded to the battery. Alright, so now we're in the car. All the lights are off. These are my parking lights. Can't really see too much. It actually shows a lot in person, but the camera's not picking it up. Those are the low beams. They're a lot brighter in person than they are on screen. And these are the high beams. And then if I turn them off, these are the fog lights. And these are the low beams. And here's the look outside with no lights on, with the parking lights on, low beams, high beams, and then if I add the fog lights, there. And you can see by themselves they light up pretty well, but they're about the same as the headlights, so you don't notice it too much with them both on, but they're pretty strong separately though. And then coming around front, you can see that they're pretty bright and they add a good amount of light. So I recommend it. I might want to swap out some LED bulbs in there, but for the most part they're pretty good. I like the way they look. Here's a little bit of the update on how the light comes out. I adjusted them so that they're kind of next to the beam of the headlights instead of right there with it. And so as you can see, when I turn them off, you can see how narrow the headlights are. When I put them back on, it really shows the sides of the road and not just directly in front of you. And that's because they kind of match the headlights pretty well. So if you have them in the same path as the headlights, you can't really notice a difference. But when they're wider like this, you can really see how much more light they put out. And I'll get out here and I'll show you just how much more light they really show. You can see I kind of have them angled sideways a bit. And so you can really see just how much more they do.